One would think that with all this noise and talk in the world, someone would eventually say something that actually means something. On point and on time, this show aims to do exactly that. My name is James Newcomb. Let's get down to business.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. And this is James Newcomb, and I have on the call Jerry Hay. Jerry is one of those people that even if you haven't heard the name, then you've probably heard his playing in things like Earth, Wind, and Fire. He's played with Quincy Jones. He's been all over the place. Pretty well known in arranging and recording. Really nice, vibrant horn section and arrangements and things like that. So, Jerry, it's great to have you, and thanks for taking some time, man.
Thanks. My pleasure.
So I would just like to get to know you a little bit, Jerry. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, when you got started in music, things like that.
I grew up in northern Illinois in a small town called Dixon, which is in the middle of corn and soybeans and cows. But my parents were both musicians. My dad is a trombone player. My mother was a pianist. My older brother played trombone. My other brother played tuba. So there's a lot of music in the family all the time. And my older brother was 10 years older than I was, and he was in the Boy Scouts. And he was playing bugle in the Boy Scouts. And he brought the bugle home one day. And I was, I don't know, a year plus when he brought it home, and I picked it up and it never left my hands, basically. So I got my first trumpet, cornet actually, when I was 3 and played in church. With my mother playing piano. Probably something simple, but in church when I was 3. I got started early, and then my dad heard Clifford Brown live in Chicago. And so he was into Clifford Brown early and bought the records. His first memorial record, it came out later, but he bought the original version of it. And his first, it was a 10-inch record to begin with. And so I started listening to Clifford Brown, started learning his solos. And in high school, I could probably play 20 or maybe even 30 Clifford Brown solos. Started doing that. Then I ended up taking lessons with Charlie Geyer, who was at the time in Chicago Symphony. I tried to get in with Herseth, and he wasn't available. Didn't taking anybody. I got in with Charlie Geyer, took lessons with him in high school, and that was great. The music part of it was fantastic. And he gave me a Chicago Symphony Bach C trumpet. He said, "Here, take this and learn how to play C trumpet." And then he gave me his D, E flat, learn how to play it. Great learning experience. And at that point, you're open to learning anything. And it was easy for me to pick all that up.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to go to Northwestern and do the whole Northwestern thing with Chikowitz, learn that route, and get into the Chicago Symphony scene, not that I would be in the symphony, lyric opera or whatever available. That just didn't sit right with me. I went to Northwestern, didn't feel right. And a friend of mine said, "I'm going to Indiana, and they got 3 trumpet teachers there, and it's a large music school." And I said, "Great, I'll go there." So went
What's
there.
the time frame of this? Indiana.
1968.
Okay.
So I went there, auditioned for Indiana, and got second in the orchestra. There were 250 trumpet players auditioning. And so I got second in the orchestra, and I didn't know any of the trumpet teachers. Louis Davidson was there, and he'd been 23 years in Cleveland Symphony, and that's all I knew. And so I was assigned a teaching assistant. And so I went in for my first lesson, and his name was Walt Blanton, and he was a student of Mr. Adams. And so I went in to Seawind, and he said, "Come on down the hall here." And so we walked down the hall, knocked on Mr. Adams' door, and he said, "Here's your trumpet teacher." So I got just put in with Mr. Adam just by happenstance.
Okay.
And one of the most fortunate things in my life. He's the greatest man I've ever met. Just amazing, and not necessarily trumpet oriented, just life. He teaches you how to be a good person. And he built his own house in a cabin, and he could do anything. Just a great man. Treated everybody just like you want to be treated. Ended up at Indiana for a few years. Met Larry Hall, fabulous trumpet player, and Charlie Davis. And they were both 2 and 3 years older than I was. And Larry had been taking from Mr. Adams since high school. So he was totally set up. And I heard him play, and he played first in the orchestra. He played first in the jazz band. He went out on tours with Mancini and Andy Williams and all of these people that came through Indianapolis, would pick up the band out of Indiana, and Larry would go out and say, "Man, listen to that guy play. I want to play like that. He can play everything." That kind of changed my focus from, I was playing only C trumpet at that point. I don't want to do that. I want to do what he does. And I was there for a couple years, 2.5 years. In the middle of my junior year, I'd gotten first in the orchestra in my junior year, and I'm in for a lesson with Mr. Adam, and the phone rings. And it's Larry Hall. And he's calling from Hawaii. He had gone over to Hawaii because they needed some players over there for some shows. Larry calls up and said, "Do you want to go? You interested in coming to Hawaii?" "Okay. Let me ask Mr. Adam." We talked about it a bit. And Mr. Adam goes, "You've learned all you're going to learn here. You're going to go over there with Larry. You guys are going to kill it."
Okay.
And we ended up over in Hawaii. We were in Hawaii together for 4 or 5 years, along with Gary Grant, and then moved to LA. And then here I am, 50 years later.
I guess you were exposed to both the jazz/commercial side and also the classical side in depth. And if you could have chosen whichever route you wanted, sounds to me like you had the ability, you had the chops, you had the skill, the work ethic, etc. So whatever you chose, you could have made it work. So what made you, I heard that something inside of you just didn't really register. Something was just off inside about the Chicago Symphony or the classical scene in Chicago. What do you think made you gravitate towards the route that you ultimately chose?
At Indiana, you have to play in the orchestras. That if you're going to be a trumpet player, you play in I think at that point they had 6 orchestras going. So you're playing in the orchestra. So you go in there and you sit for 10 minutes, and then you play da-da-da-da, and then you sit for another 3 minutes. And I mean, we played some great things. We played Bruckner and Don Juan and Einhildenleben. We played a bunch of great stuff. But it wasn't like playing. I started playing in the big bands that they had there with David Baker. And that just hit it for me.
Yeah.
My focus changed then from heading down the classical route to more contemporary.
More modern, and it's more, maybe a little more relevant with popular culture at the time.
Yeah, maybe. I was too young and didn't think that far in depth.
Yeah, but when you're young, sometimes you just know something is inside. You just know this. Like when you see that woman that you want to marry, I know that's the girl for me. She doesn't know it at the time, but you know it, and so you pursue it, and then eventually, hopefully, she comes around.
Yeah.
So you just knew this is good music, and I can do it, but this just not for me.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right. And I'm certainly glad that I made that decision, because I don't believe I'd have been a happy guy playing in an orchestra.
There's a lot of unhappy orchestral musicians out there.
Yeah.
So, sounds like you made the right decision.
Yeah, I
What kind
think
of
I did.
stuff were you playing? Was it like theater stuff in Hawaii?
That it was there was a local artist. The main reason that I went over there was a local artist from Hawaii who was sort of Tom Jones ish, I guess you could say. A great singer, had a great act with a really great band. Maybe the hardest show I've ever played. Played 14 shows a week. We did 3 shows on Friday and Saturday. It was like 9, 11:30, and 1:30. We'd get home at 4. Very Vegas like.
Yeah.
But Larry Hall and myself, and Gary actually ended up, when he came over, the 3 of us never played that show together, but Gary played it for a while. I played it for a while with Larry and without Larry. But it was a great show. And there were a couple other entertainers over there. At that point in the mid-70s, there was a lot of music going on in Honolulu, a lot of shows.
Yeah.
There was Larry Hall, myself, and Gary Grant were there, living there. And then because there were more shows, Chuck Finley came over a few times. And Ollie Mitchell, who was a guy from the 60s who played a million things, a member of the Wrecking Crew, Ollie, he moved over there. And a few other guys, because there was so much work, the musical contractor over there always wanted to have a good first trumpet player there.
Yeah.
And so he would bring guys in. So it was a lot of music going on over there.
There's a lot of music in modern culture, but it's not live music. So there's a lot of live music, which is very different from the musical scene today.
Right.
Generally speaking.
Yeah. No, it's that I don't think they have those kind of shows much over there anymore. There are some Hawaiian type more shows, but not Vegas-y type shows as much.
And you'll have to forgive me because we're just getting to know each other right alongside people listening in. So I'm just learning a little bit about your life myself. What is the time frame that you left Honolulu for Los Angeles?
We left. So when we were in Hawaii, the band we were playing with was really great. There were about 5 guys that moved over there from Indiana that played in this group of musicians that we played these shows with. And those people, the keyboard player and saxophone player and myself, formed a band called Seawind that we played around Honolulu with this band
Seawind.
We played clubs. We played for $600 a week for 7 people. So we weren't making much money, but we were playing great music. And we got heard a lot. People that came from LA to vacation or to play a show over there, they would come in and listen to us. We had the guys in Toto came and played with us, and guys from Johnny Mathis' band, and Neil Schon from Journey, and a whole bunch of people came in to hear us, and we got heard a lot. So then we decided to move over to LA to make a record in 1976.
76. Okay. Okay, so you moved to LA only to make a record?
That is when we moved. The band moved from Hawaii to LA.
The entire band?
Yeah.
Is this the band that became Earth, Wind, and Fire?
No, it's still Seawind.
Seawind.
Yeah, no, the Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff was just me as a studio musician, arranger, aside from Seawind.
Oh, Seawind. You hear the connection between Seawind? Why would you choose a lot of the natural elements? Seawind, Earth, Wind, and Fire? Is there a fascination that you have with these things?
I didn't have anything to do with kind of either name, I guess. Earth, Wind, and Fire existed long before anybody knew who I was. Seawind was a name of one of the songs that we were playing, and we were in Hawaii.
All right. maybe we can talk a little bit about your involvement with Earth, Wind, and Fire, because I know that is a big part of your journey. Just tell us a little bit about how you got involved with that.
David Foster, producer, brilliant songwriter, keyboard player, producer, was a friend. He, at the time, was basically a studio musician playing sessions, as was I. We met on several sessions and became friends, and he started producing and asked me to help him with horn arranging. The first thing we did together was an album by Bill Champlin, who eventually became one of the singers in Chicago. And Bill Champlin wrote, along with David Foster and Jay Graydon, After the Love Is Gone for Earth, Wind, and Fire. So they wrote that song. David got to meet and write with Maurice White of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay.
And they were working on this record, and David called me and said, do you want to work on the Earth, Wind, and Fire record with me? And I eventually turned it down because, one, I hadn't written a lot of arrangements for anything other than the guys that I worked with. The two saxophone players from my band, Gary Grant and Bill Reichenbach, trombone. That was the only thing that I'd written for. And this was going to be a larger ensemble, 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, 3 saxophones, and 3 French horns. And I'd never done anything like that. So I initially said no. But then David said, you got to do this. And unfortunately, I said, okay. So then I went in, and that ended up being, I think we played on 15 Earth, Wind, and Fire records, probably.
Wow. You said how many records?
15, probably.
15 records. Wow. Well, that's great. What made you hesitate to take that commitment? Was it just lack of confidence or
A little bit of that. And
lack of experience?
that too, a little bit of, I'm not comfortable writing for guys that I don't really know. And I'm, at this point, I mean, everything until this point, I'd been in charge. And at this point, okay, I'm not really in charge. And the guys that are going to be there are not my core group guys.
Okay.
I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't want it to not be as good as it can be. So
That makes sense. You didn't have as much control as you once had.
I had no control other than some of the notes that were on paper.
Okay.
That was about it, really.
How did it work out?
It's not as good as it could be, but it's good. In the Stone that was the first thing that I wrote, and that was the first thing we played. It's good. It's not, it could be better, but that's.
But nothing's ever good as it can be.
Strive for that.
We strive for that.
And when you have, so it's 8, 11, 14 guys, not everybody is giving 100%. So you're not all on the same page.
Okay. So you're writing for a horn section of 14?
4 trumpets, 4 trombones, 3 saxophones, 3 French horns.
Yeah.
That's a lot of bodies in a funky situation to try to make it tight. Eventually, with Earth, Wind, and Fire, I pared it down to 6 players.
Okay.
3 trumpets, 2 trombones, and 1 sax, which is a lot tighter group.
Minus the French horns.
Minus the French horns and minus a lot of saxophones and trombones. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see how that would create some issues with not just that many people, but I don't know, maybe everybody has, you have situations like that. Everybody has their own personal goals.
Absolutely.
Getting to line it up with one singular thing is very different from them achieving whatever they want to pursue in their own life and their career.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there some sort of, okay, let me rephrase that. Is there a way to direct people's energy when you have multiple people? In some cases, 14, eventually 6. Is there a way to get those 6 players to direct their focus and their energy so that they are not playing just for themselves, but they're playing for the good of the group, for a certain outcome, like a collective outcome?
the Michael Jackson Off the Wall. So that's the two saxophone players from Seawind, myself, Gary Grant on trumpet, Bill Reichenbach on trombone. 5 guys. And every one of those guys wanted to be better than we could make it.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
It was never good enough, especially Gary Grant. That was his best thing. As great a player as he was, his best thing was, we can make it better than that. And sometimes I had to say, Gary, it's pretty good. We had to let it go because we beat it into a submission, basically. But so that was the core group of horn section that I used my whole career, those guys, because everybody was there for the music. Everybody wanted it to be great. And we're not there to make money. That's not why we're there. We're there to make this as good as we can, and the money will follow.
Very good. Make it as good as we can. But you also have to, like you said with Mr. Grant, you just have to say, this is good enough, right? We can always be better, but sometimes you have to say, we gave our best effort, and we're going to... But how do you know whether or not to do another take or to take another stab at it? When do you know, yeah, this could be better, but it's good enough? How do you know that?
Listening for me is one of the things that I do best. And listening to a playback, I would have the engineer, can you play that back for us and listen to, okay, that's not good enough. We need to do that again. And I'm listening to it in headphones. That's pretty microscopic listening.
Yes. Right.
And when we're recording, we only record to bass, drums, mainly drums, a little bit of keyboard, a little bit of guitar, no vocal. We're getting down to the main instruments and making sure we're in time and in tune. And when you put the vocal on top of that, and all the synths and whatever else is going to go on top of it, all of that is going to get a little washed.
Yeah.
So when you're just playing mainly to drums, if your time is good and the pitch is good, it's fine.
Were there ever situations where you were forced to put out, like, ship the final product that you knew wasn't as good? To use the terminology we've used, it's not acceptable, but you have to ship it anyway.
No.
Never?
Not anything that I'm involved in. Yes, there were times when I was just a player, just called to make a session. Go there. I'm there to play as good as I can play, and I'm not in control. Mm-hmm. Somebody else wrote it. There's a different producer. I don't know anything about it. I play as good as I can play. Thank you very much. Walk out. But when I'm in charge, people call me to write. I call the players, and I make sure that it's as good as possible.
Yeah. Very good. That's a great thing to be able, that's something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
This time in your life.
Yeah. We don't want anything out there because it's there forever for people to hear, and it's just not acceptable if it's not good enough.
These days, yes, it's there forever, but it's also forgotten almost instantly once it's published.
True.
So it's a little bit of a different vibe. People consume media differently than they did back in the day. And just for reference, I was born in 1976, and I'm 50 years old. It just shows how our consuming habits have changed.
Changing world.
It's always a changing world, but it seems like it's changing a little faster than
definitely
sometimes. How important is it to have the right people? And you've talked about, you had your players from the Seawind in the various projects that you've had, but it's one thing to have a lot of really talented people gathered together, but it's another thing to have those people who are the right people. How do you speak a little bit about that?
It is a team effort. We don't sound good If you only had trumpets playing, it wouldn't sound as good without trombone or sax to fill out the chords, the sound, the body of the sound. It's a team effort, and everybody has to be on the same page. Taking a page from Quincy's book, that the people who played on Off the Wall in 1978 were the same people playing for Quincy on his last tour. The very same people. Greg Fillinganes on keyboards, John Robinson on drums, our horn section. It's the same people. He created a family, knew that the people that he chose were the right people to come in and do the job as well as anybody could do it. And it forms a team, and everybody has the music as their goal and whatever it takes to get it done. And that was the same thing with the horn section. We were there for the music to make it as good as we could and put it out there, and chips fall where they may.
You use the words "for the music," and I wonder if we could dissect that a little bit, because it sounds a little bit abstract as is. What specific outcome are you thinking about? The person who's listening to this, are you looking for a specific reaction or maybe some emotions that are being triggered in the people listening? I just want to zero in a little bit on what exactly the music means for you.
When we're called to come in as a horn section, the song is basically there already. They have done a track. They have done the vocals. Somebody wrote the song. So we are trying to make what we do to the song, make our input, make the song better, make that music grow and become more than it was before we were there. We have done things, and after we do them, people say, I can't imagine this without the horns on here, because it becomes a part of the whole project, an integral part of that project. That's what we're there to do, is to try to become part of the song, not just somebody coming in and playing on top of something, and trying to
find your place within the music.
Definitely.
Okay. Very good. I had one more question about the personnel side of things, and I have a couple of other questions, and then we'll be just about out of time. But going back to having the right people, what are some signs that maybe somebody is a good player, they're perfectly adequate, competent, they know their way around the horn, they know the music, but maybe there's just something that's a little bit off with their attitude, their disposition? What are red flags or signs that somebody, although they're competent, they're not a good fit with the group?
I always go to Gary Grant on this. He was a fabulous trumpet player to start with.
Yes.
We were good friends, but he never let anything slide. Even sometimes when I say it's good enough, he'd say, you know what, we could do that better. And he would play it as many times as it took to make it right. And that's really the end game that you need to get to, is people that, is that good enough? Are we there where we need to be on this? Of course, you got to show up on time. You got to be ready to play. You got all of that stuff. But once you get in there, it's got to be, you have to focus in on making it right. And that was he was better at that than anybody, really.
So just have a low tolerance for error.
Not necessarily, because there were other guys that missed less notes than Gary did. But if you play it again and he nails it, it's going to sound better than the guy who didn't miss a note. Because
why is that?
One, because of his sound. Two, because he cares. And it just makes, when it all comes together like that and everybody's playing at the same intensity and focal point and all of that, it becomes one unit as opposed to 5 different guys playing.
Would you say that Gary Grant was like the alpha of the group?
He was certainly an alpha personality.
Okay.
It was my section to, as the leader, as the arranger, but I always had anybody who wanted to have a comment about anything, about a phrasing, about maybe we could play this instead of that, or how about if we try this? No problem. Let's make it better.
Yeah.
So
you're a leader, not a dictator.
Definitely not. No.
Yeah, there's plenty of those in not just the music world, but just the world in general.
Definitely.
People want to be in control at all times.
Yeah.
When you're making arrangements for whatever the case may be, and I'm not looking for specific techniques I'm not trying to get a free masterclass of any sort, but what are some general principles when you are arranging? What is the right balance? Like, trumpet is great, but it's also like hot sauce. If you have too much of it, then it's just too much. What are some guidelines when it comes to balancing out who gets the spotlight when, who doesn't get the spotlight when? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Working with Quincy, ultimate arranger, ex-trumpet player, producer, songwriter, and impresario, you name it. Great man. The vocal is there. That's going to be the loudest thing on the record.
Yes.
If you're playing when the vocal is playing, the horns are going to be down. So stay away from the vocal. There's a space for the horns somewhere in there. I try to look for that space. I try to play something in the chorus memorable. And I always go to, all you need is love. Ra-da-da-da-da. So if you can put the song together with a horn part like that, or even as simple as it may be, Sweet Caroline, bum, bum. How many million people sing those stupid horn parts? If you can make something that connected to the song, you're in. That becomes an integral part of that song.
And it's only 3 notes in Sweet Caroline, but everybody knows it. You go to the baseball game, they're playing it.
And everybody sings along.
Yeah.
If you can come up with something like that, you're in.
Very
good. That's kind of what I try to do.
Integrate.
It doesn't work out very often, but once in a while.
Integrate, don't dominate.
Yeah.
Good. We're just about out of time, but you have the camera focus so that we can see some artifacts behind you hanging on your wall for those watching on YouTube. Could you tell us a little bit about those?
So when I started arranging, I would play on these records, and Michael Jackson and Quincy and a few of those would go gold or platinum back then. And the producers would send me these records. You can, if you are certified that you played on a gold record, you can buy a gold record with your name on it. But I've never done that. These are ones that were sent from a lot from Quincy. Dan Fogelberg, I played on longer. I played the trumpet solo on that, and a couple others that I've played on. So that, and there's my Grammys are up there. So, a little bit of memorabilia from the past.
Those are beautiful, and I'm sure that they're meaningful. Now that you're at this stage of your career, and that most of that stuff is probably in the past at this point, what is the most meaningful thing of your musical experience? And it's a very deep question, and I'm not looking for any specific answer, but I'm just asking, just thinking about all of your experiences, which are wonderful, and you've done a lot of cool things that most people could only dream of doing. But at this point of your life, what is the most important thing when it comes to music?
The enjoyment of what you do. I loved playing trumpet. That was just my favorite thing to do. And I wasn't really an arranger, but forced into it by Quincy. And that gave us the door open to play on all of the records he did. And from that, a million other records that we did because of the ones that we played on with him. So it's going in, enjoying what you do and doing it as good as you can and hoping people enjoy it.
Wonderful. Our guest has been Jerry Hay, and it's been great to connect with you. And I hope everybody who has listened or watched has enjoyed it. Jerry, I really appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences. A lot of really cool stories. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.